biggest learning I've had in business was when the partnership I had running the agency I used to own fell apart, became very difficult, and I learned a lot about the legal process of partnerships, shareholdings, directorships, and also how difficult it is to deal with those kinds of situations when you don't have formal agreements in place to begin with. The biggest mistake was starting out in business with a friend, 50-50 partnership, and we didn't have any kind of formal shareholder agreements about what would happen in the event of a dispute or anything like that. And particularly because it was 50-50 as well, it was very difficult to separate from that in any sort of amicable way. There were very few legal options, and so I learnt that it's very difficult to deal with those kinds of things when you have a 50-50 partnership, when you don't have dispute clauses in any kind of agreements that you might have around shareholders and articles of association, all that kind of stuff. And it's difficult, protracted, and, as you might expect, very expensive on the legal front to deal with that once things get a little bit heated. So yes, if I knew that when I started out, I would have made sure that arrangements were different, and I probably wouldn't have suggested a 50-50 split in the first place either, because even with agreements in place, of course, it's head to head. Each party has exactly the same kind of level of control and so forth. So that's also very tricky. So if you're going into business, think very carefully about the people that you go into business with and how you structure that, and ultimately who might have the control in the event of any kind of dispute. When I ran our digital marketing agency, we were in the local community. We were on a high street, really, in our office, and there was residential parts just around the corner. There were a number of small shops and other sorts of businesses along there as well. And we did, as a result of that, feel part of the community, which is something that perhaps you don't get quite so much if you're out in a business park or work from home, maybe. And as a result of that, I think it struck us all, because we'd all be mixing with our neighbours, as it were, throughout the working week, that we need to support that kind of community where we can. And although we were a small business, not hugely profitable, if we were able to support local activities, local organisations and events, we would do that where we could. If that was through sponsorship, maybe spend a little bit of time working with them in a voluntary kind of capacity. And that's important to us because, first of all, we were part of that, and we wanted it to be a nice place, and we wanted to be friendly to people and be recognised as part of the community, not just these people who just turn up and leave at 5 o'clock every day kind of thing. But we also, I think, wanted to be able to contribute as a business, knowing that we were creating value in the sense of hopefully some profit, and we were employing people and all that kind of stuff. We wanted to make sure that we're contributing our bit as well, and that's not always easy as a business. Sometimes it can come off as playing at it, or doing it in a performative kind of way to kind of look good, but you don't really care about it. That's a tricky thing to do. But I think the nature of businesses being in their communities like that is that you have to contribute to some extent. Otherwise, you won't get the support when you need it. Maybe there's been an issue with, somebody's tried to break into your premises, or the alarm's going off for some reason, nobody knows why. If you've got neighbours there able to contact you because you're friendly with them, you've made those relationships, and they think you're good people, then they'll help you out. They'll check it out. They'll try and contact you to let you know all that kind of stuff. But also, I think if you look at it in a slightly bigger picture sense, the more you can engage with the community, the more you can be seen to be supporting people, groups, organisations, events, and so on. the easier it is for you to recruit from that community, the easier it is for you to show when you're going through a recruitment process that, your business has a caring side to it and so forth. It is good PR ultimately. That very rarely do businesses do this in a completely altruistic way. I think it's reasonable to say. But you've got to be genuine about it. You've got to see that, we can do something, we can help with that, and want to do it, not just do it for the PR and the performative aspect of it. But the benefits, we certainly could see in our team that it generated cohesion, and they liked the fact that we were contributing to things. They liked to be part of that as well and directly involved. We had a pretty social-minded set of people in the team, and they felt it was kind of their duty as citizens, even whether they were employees of us or not really, to try and support things where they could, where they thought that there was value in it. So I think enabling those activities as a business is very good for team building, team bonding, for demonstrating positive values to your own staff as well as to the community that you're part of. Really began at an early age with a fascination with computers and using computers for sort of creative purposes. Unfortunately, I never really had the mathematical brain required for actual computer programming. And of course, we're talking about the 80s here, so the easy ways of learning how to program and ways of making computers do anything particularly impressive were nowhere near as easy as they are now. The resources weren't there. If you really wanted to get computers to perform, you needed to know machine code, and that's definitely not something that I was in a position to really pick up. But I loved the idea of computers and synthesizers and all kinds of technology where you could be creative and make your own stuff, basically. And so I spent quite a lot of time playing around to the level that I was able to as a child and an early teenager, trying to get it to do things, trying to create art on there, draw things with a mouse, trying to type in listings back in the days of spectrums and what have you. And although I spent a lot of that time playing games, I also did try and use the creative software. I used it to do my schoolwork and print out, the essays and stuff that I had to write. Really that love kind of continued. And I realized that it would be great to work in some kind of technology. And just the time I came to try and get my first job after graduating, the web was really taking off. And thankfully, one of my housemates at the time was a computer studies kind of graduate, and he helped me understand how the web worked. And thankfully, by that point, learning how to do things like HTML and get websites running and stuff didn't require machine code and that kind of level of difficulty. So I was able to build basic websites, which were absolutely horrible looking back, but in those times, not many people were able to do it. So I was able to get that. That got me into my first job, and everything's continued from there, really. So I'm, realised quite quickly that I don't have the skills as a graphic designer to actually create stuff, and I'm definitely not a programmer to be able to build real applications and database interfaces, that kind of stuff. So I ended up on the marketing path, and really enjoyed being able to get stuff to appear in search engine results. And when I started, Google hadn't quite launched at that time, so it was a lot easier than it is now to make stuff appear at the top of search results in Alta Vista and stuff like that. And that fascination with technology and the rewards of I've done something and I can see a result and it happens pretty quick, and it actually makes a difference to things. Getting a business's website to appear in search results when it didn't previously obviously can have a pretty significant effect on their business. And all those things came together that it really fired my imagination, and that combined with the rapid development and pace of change shaped my need for new things all the time and never getting bored, and that's kind of satisfied my needs for that kind of stuff and served me well in my career path. Early on, when I was much younger, delivering training in a small kind of group to some small businesses, and although I think I probably did have the knowledge, I wasn't a particularly great presenter. And there was a lady there, somewhat older, And very politely, she kind of told me, your delivery's rather dull and boring, Sunshine. And from that moment on, I realised that I needed to improve my delivery and learn how to engage people, keep it interesting, even though the topic's sometimes quite dense. I hope not particularly boring, but certainly, we had a lot of information to get over in a fairly short space of time. And it's very easy to try and do that. And you're concentrating on the information you're delivering and getting through it in the right kind of way without thinking about how that's coming across. And I think if I hadn't realized that and took that criticism on board as something that was constructive rather than taking it personally, and it was personal, your boring Sunshine isn't exactly what you want to hear from anybody, but it was true, and I can look back and I appreciate why that was the case. Probably a bit young, a bit nervous, all those kinds of things. And you see it happen. You often see speakers where they kind of drone on, they're a bit stilted, and it's down to self-confidence as much as anything else. And that's been hugely important for me, because ever since, I've been very conscious of not allowing that to happen if I possibly can, whenever I'm delivering any kind of training, talks, or just generally engaging with any sort of audience of people. And hopefully, largely, I achieve that. Nobody's said it since, so 20 years later, I'm hoping that's still true. Possibly not. But just that one comment from that one lady really made a difference. And I suspect if I hadn't taken that on board, I wouldn't have had all the opportunities to deliver the training, the workshops, and meet all those people and businesses over the years that has been the mainstay of my career. So in a kind of roundabout way, thank you very much to her for that criticism. My favourite food cuisine, I think it's fair to say, is Indian. The variety of flavours and types of food from north to south, there's a huge array there, full of flavour. And you can eat healthily or you can eat very naughtily with that cuisine as well. So you've got options. Definitely my favourite. The part of the general kind of work that I do that I love the most is delivering knowledge to people, really sharing knowledge, answering questions, and seeing the metaphorical light bulb go on above people's heads, because then I know that I've done my job well, and if those people act upon that knowledge, it should make a positive difference to them and their businesses, and that's easily the most rewarding part of what I do. And it's great to work on people's websites to see them ranking higher and their businesses build as a result of that. There's a lot of satisfaction in that, but that's kind of what I'm being paid to do. And if I didn't do that, I'd be failing. So really the greatest satisfaction is in the training and the consultancy of delivering that knowledge and seeing other people take it on board and understand, maybe they didn't understand what was happening before, or they were confused by something. If I've managed to explain it well and it becomes clear for them and they know, right, I can now take action on that, that's the most powerful thing that I can do in my line of work. So that's probably the thing I like the most. The thing I dislike the most about what I do, and I'm very lucky that there's not a lot that I really dislike, is perhaps sometimes you'll do something in the realm of technology and it becomes a tedious process trying to make something work or fix something, or in the worst case scenario, you do something and it breaks and then it's your job to go and fix it and there's no quick way to do it. So sometimes working with technology can be frustrating because that mistakes can happen or things don't behave as they're meant to and you can't get an answer as to why. Often the nature of what we do is working with external parties. That might be web developers that have been employed by a client or something like that, or it might be a software developer on the other side of the world who's written this bit of plugin or whatever it is in the website and it's not working right, or you needed to do something else. And getting responses from people when you've only paid them 50 quid a year to use their software, understandably they're not necessarily going to respond immediately, and that can become very, very frustrating, especially when you don't get any response at all. So yeah, probably the technology side, when things don't work as you wish, or the people behind the technology aren't as responsive or capable as you would like them to be, that's the thing that I dislike the most. If you're making a cup of tea, it's always milk second. You put the milk in once you have finished brewing the tea. Otherwise, you've fundamentally misunderstood the physics of how tea is brewed. So always milk once the tea is mashed. So things that I'm listening to in terms of music right now, there's a band called Slow Crush, sort of heavy shoegaze kind of stuff. I think they've got a new album coming out in the summer and touring later in the year, so we'll go to see them. A lot of new music passes me by. I'm old now, so new music just sounds like a poor version of what's come before. So I do listen to a lot of old rock, 70s, 80s, 90s rock and indie from my earlier years. And that combined with things that sound a bit like it now are what I tend to listen to. That's a good question. I'm very fortunate that quite early in my working life, I was asked to present some workshops and presentations more generally on benefit of the internet to businesses and how to optimize websites for search engines and those kinds of things. And this was back in sort of the 2001 time. I started out delivering the odd thing for the what was then the Nottinghamshire Chamber of Commerce. They had breakfast events in an e-business club, as we called it, and people would turn up and talk about that kind of stuff. And that gave me my first opportunity, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed, explaining things to people, sharing knowledge. I enjoyed being in front of an audience as well. And that led me to deliver a lot more of those kinds of events over the years, and that's been my whole career really. After the first year or two, I've been delivering training to small businesses and some larger events as well, and sharing that knowledge, which is very rewarding. Often I'm able to do that in a workshop kind of environment, so I can interact with people as well, answer their questions, look up their websites, look up their businesses, use that as examples, answer queries like, why isn't this working, or what do I need to do to this? And I must have now delivered that kind of training and consultancy to several thousand businesses, most of which are in the East Midlands. And of course, I've also built a digital marketing agency and ran that for 10 years. And that also needed, of course, training and nurturing of the staff. And we do that in a similar way, one-to-one or small groups of people. And of course, the benefit of when you're delivering that kind of stuff in your own business to your own members of the team is that you can be more practical with it, and you can review what they've done. You can sort of iterate and build up their knowledge as time goes on. We, in our time, took on quite a number of graduates or young people who maybe haven't had an office-based job before, and we taught them how to do various aspects of digital marketing, particularly search engine optimization, and they have, as far as I can see from LinkedIn, gone on to some decent careers in that line of work since, and that's obviously very rewarding as well. Quite a lot of the training that I've delivered is also through some social enterprise type groups, to business startups and those kinds of things. And obviously some of those businesses have since grown and become pretty established as well. So that's been very rewarding, and it's been a big part of my life as well. And ultimately, it's how I've managed to build a business. To me, trust in the business context is, I suppose, the ability to rely on people to react to things and take actions in the way that you would hope they would, whether they're people within your own team, whether they are customers or clients, suppliers. And I think it is to some extent an essential part of a business relationship. As it is with any kind of relationship. I've had a lot of clients over my time running digital marketing agencies and as a sole trader as well. And trust is very important because it also enables a certain degree of efficiency, in the sense that if there was no trust, there'd be a lot greater requirement for long contractual arrangements, lots of verbiage that people have to agree to, lots of kind of clauses and statements you'd have to make in order to sort of protect yourself, almost, as it were. And when you have a reasonable degree of trust, a lot of that goes without saying. A lot of it's kind of implicit in that relationship existing at all, and comes from, to some extent, the work that maybe you've already done with those people or those businesses to build up that relationship. But it's ultimately, trust equals efficiency to me, in that if you trust somebody, you can just get on with it. You can trust them to do what you expect them to do, or you can trust them to treat you in a reasonable and responsible way if they're your customer. And that to me has been enormously important, particularly because I'm in a services business where we're selling time and dealing directly with people in that way, and they equally have to trust us. And that's something that I really tried to build upon when I had the agency, and I was trying to win clients through pitches and so forth. And I'd ultimately try to demonstrate trust through knowledge and the way that I presented myself. And I saw on a number of occasions, both as a recipient and sitting next to other people on the same side of the table, where they would speak in ways that I thought, well, that doesn't sound trustworthy. The classic kind of salesperson trying to sell snake oil kind of stuff. Whether they were or not, the way they presented it, it was coming across as though I wouldn't trust it, and therefore probably there are lots of other people that wouldn't either. So it was very important to me to come across as trustworthy and genuinely be that. And I tried to do that by transparency, explaining to people what went off. The services we sell are often seen as black box, so I don't know what they do, but things happen and we get higher up Google or whatever. If people wanted to know, I would show them everything, because ultimately that's how we could win trust. And I suspect that applies to a lot of other service type businesses as well, where if you're transparent with people, you show them what's involved, what it takes, what kind of things get done, or how things are done, then ultimately they will trust you much more to do what you say you're going to do. One, in the sense that they will trust that you know what you're talking about, and ultimately that's what they're buying, experience and expertise. And also they'll trust you in the sense when you say it takes this long or it costs this much money, they'll be able to see why, because you've shown them that. And that was absolutely core to the agency we built and how we won that business. And if I had to do it again, then I would take exactly the same approach. If I had to choose between England winning the World Cup or me going to the moon, I would definitely choose England winning the World Cup, because I don't fancy the risks of going to the moon. Nobody's been since 1972, and it looks a little bit hairy. So I think I will stay safe here on Earth and celebrate England winning the Jules Rimet for a second time.